Hello guys, welcome back. I'm Yusuf Shakeel and you are watching CSS tutorial series. In this video, we are going to learn about colors. So let's get started. Alright, I have opened brackets and now I'll go ahead and create a new file and I will save it as color.html. And I'll write the following HTML code. So we have the doc type, HTML, opening and closing HTML tag. We have the opening and closing head tag. And the title is set to color. Now inside the CSS folder, we'll create a new file and we'll give this a name, color.css. Now inside the HTML file, we will include this color.css file, which is inside the CSS folder. So we'll write link rel and we'll set the value to style sheet and href to css/color.css. And now we'll open the live preview. So we have the title set to color. We use the color property to set the color of the content of an HTML element. And value of the color property can be name of a color. It can be in hex form, that is in hexadecimal. It can be a value in RGB format, that is red, green, and blue. And the color value can be in RGBA format, that is red, green, blue, and alpha, where alpha controls the opacity. So let's say we have a header inside the body, and let's say the content of this header h1 is hello world. And let's say we want to change the color of this header h1 to blue. So we'll go inside this color.css file, and since we are targeting this h1 element, so our selector will be h1. Now we have already used the color property in our previous videos. So to set the color, we will use the color property. And in our previous video, we have used the name of the color. So to set the color of this header to blue, we use the value blue. And the output is in blue color. Another way to set the color of any HTML element is by using Rgb value. So let's say we have a heading h2 and the content of this element is heading h2, and let's say we want to set the color of the content to red, and this time we are going to use Rgb value. So RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue. And each component, that is red, green, and blue, can take value from 0 to 255. So G will take a value from 0 to 255 and B will take a value from 0 to 255. So these are integer values, where 0 means the component is absent, and 255 means it is present. So 0 means the color component is absent or it is 0%, and 255 for any color component means that the color is present 100%. So if the value of the red component R is set to 0, then its contribution to the final color is 0%. That is, red is absent from that color. And if the value of the red component R is set to 255, that means its contribution to the final color is 100%. So since we want to change the color of this header H2 to red, then it means we have to set, since we are targeting the H2 element, so our selector is H2, and we want to set the color to red using Rgb value. So we'll write Rgb and we'll pass the Rgb value. So since we want the color of this H2 element to be red, so we'll set the R value to 255 and green value to 0 and blue value to 0. And now we have the output in red. Similarly, let's say we want to change the color of this heading to green. So in that case, we will set the R value to 0, the G value to 255, and B value to 0, and we'll get the output in green. Similarly, if we want to set the color of this heading H2 to blue, we'll set the R value to 0, G value to 0, and B value to 255, and we'll have the output in blue color. And if we want to set the color of the element to black, then we have to set the R value to 0, G value to 0, and B value to 0. And the final result will be in black color. And if you want to set the color of the element to white, then we'll set the R value to 255, G value to 255, and B value to 255. And the color of the element will be white. So let us get back to the red color. So 255, 0, 0. Another way to set the color of an element is by using hex value. So let's say we have another heading element H3 and the content is heading H3, and let's say we want to set the color of H3 element to green using hex value. So hex value. Now hexadecimal is a number system that consists of 16 numbers from 0 to 15, where 0 to 9 is represented by the decimal digit 0 to 9, and the number 10 to 15 is denoted by letter A to F, both small and cap. So we have 16 numbers from 0 to 15, where we denote 0 to 9 using digit 0 to 9, and we denote 10 to 15 using letters A to F or small a to small f. So 10 in decimal is equal to capital A or small a in hex or hexadecimal. Similarly, 11 in decimal is equal to capital B or small b in hex. Similarly, 12 in decimal is equal to C or small c in hex. 13 in decimal is equal to D or small d in hex. 14 in decimal is equal to E or small e in hex. And 15 in decimal is equal to capital F or small f in hex. And hexadecimal value starts with a hash followed by 6 characters. The first 2 characters are for red component, the middle 2 characters are for green, and the last 2 characters are for blue. So this is the syntax. Now, the red component, that is the first 2 characters, can take hex value from 00 to FF, which is in hex, and its equivalent decimal value is 0 to 255. Similarly, the middle 2 characters, capital GG, can take value from 00 to FF, which is in hex, which is equal to 0 to 255 in decimal. And similarly, capital BB, that is the last 2 characters, can take value from 00 to FF in hex, which is equal to 0 to 255 in decimal. And we want to set the color of this heading H3 to green. So since we are targeting the H3 element, so our selector will be H3, and we'll set the color to hex. So hash, and since this is going to be in green color, so red component will be set to 00, green will be set to FF, and blue will be set to 00. So we have the output in green color. So similarly, let's say we want to change the color to red, then we'll set the first 2 character to FF, the middle characters to 00, and the last 2 characters to 00. And we'll have the output in red. And similarly, if we want the output in blue, we'll set the first 2 characters to 00, the middle 2 characters to 00, and the last 2 characters to FF. And we'll have the output in blue. Let's get back to the green color. So 00, FF, 00. We can also use shorthand notations for this hexadecimal value. So shorthand notation. If the first 2 characters are same, the middle 2 characters are also same, and the last 2 characters are also same. That is, the first 2 characters are RR, means any value. The middle 2 characters are GG, and the last 2 characters are BB. Then we can represent this value in a short form like hash Rgb. For example, let's say the first 2 characters are 11, the second 2 characters are 22, and the last 2 characters are 33. Then we can represent this value in short form using hash 1, 2, 3. Similarly, let's say the first two characters are BB, the second two characters are 99, and the last two characters are AA. Then the short form will be B9A. Similarly, let's say the first two characters are 00, the middle two characters are 11, and the last two characters are 22. So the short form will be hash 0, 1, 2. Now in case any of the R component, G component or B component value is not same, then we cannot use short form. For example, the following values are not allowed or invalid. So let's say if the hex value is 00 FF12, then in this case we cannot write hash 0F12. This is wrong because the last two characters are not same, even though the first two characters and the middle two characters are same. So in shorthand notation, if we want to set the color of this H3 element to green, we'll write, let me comment this out. So we'll write hash, since the first two characters are same, so 0. The middle two characters are F, so we'll replace it by 1F. And the last two characters are same, 0, 0, so we'll replace it with 1, 0. So now the output is in green color and we are using shorthand notation. Another way to set the color of an HTML element is by using Rgb value, which is similar to Rgb value, but it has an A, which is alpha, and it denotes the opacity. So let's say inside our HTML file, we have, let's say, a paragraph and its content is, this is a paragraph. And let's say we want to change the color to, let's say, red. And this time we are going to use Rgb value. So Rgb, where R is for red, G is for green, B is for blue, and A is for alpha, which is for opacity. And R can take a value from 0 to 255, G can take a value from 0 to 255, B can take a value from 0 to 255, and A can take a value from 0 to 1. These are all integer. And this is a floating point number. That is, it has decimal part. So syntax of Rgb value is color Rgb. The first is for red, second is for green, third is for blue, and the last one is for alpha. Now, since we want to change the color of this paragraph to red and we want to use Rgb, so since we are targeting the paragraph, so our selector will be P, and we'll set the color value to Rgb, And since it is going to be a red color, so R will be set to 255, G will be set to 0, B will be set to 0, and alpha will be set to 1. Now, when A is set to 1, it means opacity equal to 100%. And when value of A is set to 0, it means opacity is equal to 0%. So let me increase the font size of this paragraph by using font size, and let's say I want to set it to 24 pixels. So when the value of A is set to 1, the opacity of the color is 100%. And if we want to set it to 50%, we are going to use 0.5. And you can see the color of this element is now lighter. And as we reduce the value, let's say to 4, it will slowly start to fade away. And if the alpha value is set to 0, it will become invisible. So 1 is for 100% opacity and 0 is for 0%, that is to make the element transparent or invisible. Similarly, let's say we want to change the color of this paragraph to green. So in that case, we'll set the R value to 0, G value to 255, and B value to 0. And we'll have the output in green color. And if we want the blue color, we'll set the R value to 0, G value to 0, and B value to 255. If we want the black color, we'll set the R to 0, G to 0, and B to 0. Similarly, for white, we'll set the R value to 255, G value to 255, and B value to 255. And if you want to experiment with different colors, you can go to my website duiclassroom.com, and in the app you can click on this color mixer and you will go to this page, color mixer. Now in this page you can create different color combinations and check the result. So for example, let's say we want a black color. So for black, the red value, green value, and the blue value are all set to 0. So we'll use the slider and we'll go to 0 for R, G, and B. And we have the output, a black color. And we also get the color value in hex format, in RGB format, in RGBA format. So let's say we want to change the opacity to 50% or 0.5. So we'll slide it to 0.5 and we have the opacity for this color set to 0.5 or 50%. And we have the RGBA value 0, 0, 0, 0.50. If we want to make it transparent, we'll set the alpha value to 0. And we have the color of this element set to black. But since we have the alpha set to 0, so it is transparent. And we have the RGBA, RGB, and hex value. Similarly, let's say we want the green color. So we'll slide it to 255. And we'll set the alpha back to 1. And we have the green color. And we have the hex value 00 FF 00. RGB value 0, 255, 0, and RGBA value 0, 255, 0, 1.00. Similarly, you can change the text color and the background color using this part. So all you have to do is enter the color in Rgb value or hex value for the background, and for the text, enter the value in Rgb or hex. So let's say we want the background to be black, and let's say I want to enter hex value. So hash, and since black is all zeros, so hex value is hash 000000. So I can either write 000000, or I can use the short form. Since the first two characters are same, the middle two characters are also same, and the last two characters are also same. So I can enter hash 000. And let's say we want to change the color of the text to white. And since for white, the Rgb value is FF, 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 or 255 for the Rgb. So let's say I want to set the Rgb value. So I'll set 255, comma 255, comma 255. And I have the text in white color. And there are some list of other colors, both their color name as well as their hex value. Alright guys, this brings us to the end of this tutorial. I'll post the tutorial notes on my website dyclassroom.com. The link will be in the description. And all the code that we are writing in this tutorial series, I'll put it in my GitHub repository. The link will be in the description, so please check that out. And if you find this video interesting, then please give this video a like and please subscribe my channel. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and like always, stay happy and keep smiling. Bye.